Hello everyone and welcome back to another Movie Nights movie review. Today we're going to be talking about The Flash, which we've talked about several times on the channel, but this is it. This is our completely spoiler-filled review. If you have not seen the movie, please do one of two things. Either click away from this video, watch the movie and come back, or be on the couch behind the camera and be our friend Calle, who has not seen the movie but is going to listen to our spoiler review anyway. So yes, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin? I'm going to let you take the reins on this, Nicholas. You tell us where we begin.
Jesus. All right, so the end. Well, I guess overall thoughts. It was good.
I like it more than people are giving great credit for.
I don't think it's the best thing in their timeline, their universe.
Nope.
I don't think it's their worst.
True.
I think of the most recent releases, like Shazam and Black Adam, I think I like it more.
I agree.
But yeah.
Yeah. So this movie opens with Barry Allen at a diner, who, by the way, I want to say, I know it's played for comedic effect. I fucking hate the person who played the barista. Hated him both times.
He was really good, though.
Great performance.
Yeah.
Great performance. Couldn't stand the character. And he is kind of trying to, in a rush, because he's the Flash, of course. And
late for work,
and he gets a call from Alfred,
played by Jeremy Irons. We love some world building.
Yes, we do.
In the last movie.
Yep. And he's basically just like, hey, I need your help with something. And he's like, call Superman. And he's like, he's busy. And you see like the back of Superman on a TV because, can't see Henry Cavill.
Yep. Nope.
And then it's like, call Wonder Woman. He's like, she didn't answer me. And it's like, well, where's Bruce doing? He's handling something else.
And no cyborg reference.
Yep. So it's like, it's got to be you. There's something going on at the hospital.
Yeah.
You need to go help them. And he's like, fine. Puts on the title card reveal when it starts.
And then he gets interrupted and it goes away.
Yeah, and then he really handles it and then it goes back and the title card finishes. That was hilarious. The first big action scene of the movie involves the Flash and our boy, Ben Affleck, as Batman.
Yes, sir.
Who, by the way, was terrific in the movie. Like, incredible. Both in the Batman form and the Bruce Wayne form. I think he crushed. It's one of my favorite Bruce Wayne scenes ever. His Bruce Wayne
one in
scene.
The alley? Yeah.
Yes. But anyway.
I love what they did with the Flash when he goes from Central City to Gotham City.
Yes.
I love how it's almost like a slingshot rubber band. Like you kind of see his like boots like gear up.
Yeah.
And then it kind of.
Yeah. That was awesome. And the lightning is yellow. And you might be thinking, well, wasn't it blue in the previous movies? They do a quick little thing where whenever he wears the ring, it goes yellow. And when he doesn't, or when he wears the suit, it goes yellow. And when he
builds up charge.
Yeah.
Kind of like Black Panther's.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that was cool. I like that little detail. They didn't just ignore.
Well, because that was a criticism, right?
Yeah. But it was also, you can't just switch it up.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
apparently you can.
He gets to the hospital, and there's a lot of discourse about this scene. I disagree with the fact that there are people who think it's a bad scene. I think it's a great scene. The CG in the scene, pretty bad. The CG in most of the movie is pretty bad. But when the babies are all falling out of the hospital window, and he has to run up, and all the babies are in like horrific danger, and he
daggers, acid,
and he just goes for the vending machine, eats the food, and then just starts saving them all. I really like the sequence. It was silly, it was fun, it knew it was funny. And then, however,
it did a good job of setting kind of the comedic tone for the rest of the movie.
Yes, and you also get it intercut with one of the best Batman chase scenes ever, like really with Ben Affleck chasing the terrorists. It was awesome. And Flash finishes up his thing, tries to go help Batman. Batman pretty much handles it on his own. He gets on top of the car, gets off of his little motorcycle. He gets inside. The driver jumps out, which was hilarious. And then the car crashes over the bridge. The person he's chasing, who they say was a Falcone's kid or whatever,
which upset me, but we can finish that.
Okay, but he's holding like a chemical that if it hits the water, it's going to infect all of Gotham, of the world basically. So he's holding him up. His fingers are slipping. Batman's almost got him. It's like, oh no, he's going to drop him. And then what happens? A lasso comes down, pan up, reveal, Wonder Woman comes in, saves them, pulls them back up.
This is the third Gal Gadot jump scare we've gotten in a movie this year.
Yes. Pulls her up, and then when she helps him soon after, the Flash arrives. Yeah. And
I will say that scene was really funny because once they get up, the lasso's still around Batman, and you never hear Batman be sort of like open and emotional, and just hear him being like, I wish I could give all this money away. I don't have to do this.
And
like, my ego's too big to say thank you for helping me.
And then the best part is when it's wrapped in his hand and he goes, I really appreciate your help with this, considering the reason I do this is to suffer through my childhood trauma. and then the best joke is when Barry realizes Batman's embarrassing himself, so Barry tries to help, and when Barry grabs the lasso, he goes, I know that sex exists, I've just never experienced it, and pulls it off.
Then they just go about their ways.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the thing that upset me, and I think it's cool that they name dropped Falcone, just because why not?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have this movie that's built on the multiverse being this big scale action thing, you didn't want to put like a named person in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, like the opening scene.
Yeah, like let's get a Captain Cold. Let's get a fun like D-level villain. Fucking put Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke just for a scene. Why not? They could be robbing.
Just
the
one more
bank.
time. Just give it.
You know, like just stuff like it. It seemed like they were trying to wrap up stuff and pull references, as we'll get into later, from things that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So why not have like the Ben Affleck movie that didn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, could have been cool, but you know,
it's a lot to stuff in. I know, but
But anyway, then we get into the Flash's main story, which was touched upon in both versions of Justice League, which is he's trying to exonerate his father for the murder of his mother because he believes in his heart his father did not kill his mother. Mm-hmm. And we get the flashback of that. And what I will say, something in this movie where it works emphatically well is the relationship between Barry and his mother. Mm-hmm. Every single scene, whether it's the flashbacks, whether when it's him as an adult, both times, Barry and his mother, that emotional core in the movie, you feel in every single scene, to the point where at the end, it's like you emotionally touching the finale of the film.
And I think the movie did a good job because there are a lot of CGI messes and battle, you know, whatever be it. But when it gets to that through line of in the midst of that, you have these scenes, that still plays well to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we start to get those in the movie, and then Flash is having this emotional moment where he gets this evidence that Batman had gotten for him, that Bruce Wayne had gotten for him, but it's not good enough to exonerate his father. So he calls his father in prison, who's now played by Ron Livingston. Billy Crudup
from Office Space.
Yes, Billy Crudup wanted to do the movie, but it was a scheduling thing that he couldn't do it, so they had to recast him. Ron Livingston did very well, though, and he calls his father and basically just says, like, I'm so sorry, because the next day they're doing an appeal in court to see if he's going to be exonerated. And he says, I'm sorry, the evidence just isn't good enough. And the dad just kind of off-plays it. He goes, that's okay, Barry. Like, you know, I told you to not really focus on this. You need to go out and live your life. But obviously Barry's devastated.
Well, even the dad's emotional moment of, you know, like, maybe it's good that I'm in here because I don't want to be out there where she isn't.
Yes, and that was a great line. And basically Barry gets emotional and just decides, you know, he's going to run, you know, literally running from his feelings. And he is just running, gets faster and faster. And for a brief moment, you get the same, like, world that he almost got in Zack Snyder's Justice League when he was running that fast. Yeah. And then he starts to stretch and get weird, and then he ends up on the cosmic treadmill, and then you see a whole day through the cosmic treadmill do a rewind back a whole day. Two things about that. One, conceptually, very cool. Two, the CG, wow, it was bad. Yeah. Like, not only the cosmic treadmill, I hate his head floating in the air, like, poking through the moment. It looks ridiculous.
It looked like the scene in Thor: Love and Thunder when the kid
looked
like
exactly
projects
like
through
that.
it.
Yeah, it looked terrible. And but he realizes, holy shit, I just went back in time a whole day, and he comes back out. Yeah. And you know, this is crazy news that he has, and you know, he has a little almost date with Iris Rest where she's kind of apologizing for being rude earlier. Mm-hmm. And then you get one of the best scenes in the movie, and not only is it a profound emotional sequence, but Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, it's his last scene he's ever going to do as Bruce Wayne, and he fucking delivers it perfectly. And it's Barry getting excited and telling him, like, hey, I traveled a full day back in time. And by the way, they reference Zack Snyder's Justice League as this being a sequel to that version.
The battle in Russia, right?
Because they mention, I forget the exact country.
Porosha, or some Russian city.
Yeah, we'll just say Russia for the sake of argument. Yeah. But he says, I traveled back in time, and Batman says, like you did in Russia? And he goes, yeah, but that was for a minute. I went back a whole day. Mm. So that right there didn't happen in theatrical. DSGL canon, let's go. In this sequence, Barry gets excited, and he goes, I can go back, I can save my mom. And then he tells Bruce, he's like, I could save your parents. Mm-hmm. And Bruce's speech, where he basically tells him that these events that happen in our lives creates who we are, and we wouldn't be who we are without them. And Bruce even says, he goes, I have no idea who I would be if my parents never died. It's part of who I am, and it's part of my growth, and if I didn't have that, I don't even know what I would do to exist. And it was just such a great scene where he kind of tries to tell him, like, please don't do this. This is who you are because of this event that happened. Let's just try to move forward. And like the best goodbyes, Barry says, do you want to hang out sometime? And Ben Affleck just says, maybe some other time, and then gets in his car and drives away. And that's the last time we'll ever see him, and I'm so fucking mad about it. But Barry goes back inside. That's when he does the whole date with Iris. And he kind of convinces himself, like, no, I'm going to do it. I could go, because basically he realizes, like, oh, my mom, if she wouldn't have forgot that second can of tomatoes, she would have never died. So all I'm changing, I'm not even interacting with anyone. I'm just getting her an extra can of tomatoes. So he goes back.
I'm not seeing myself. I'm not seeing her. I'm just tossing
So he goes
this in the
back.
cart.
He puts the extra can of tomatoes in her cart, and he's like, great, I got to get back out of here. But when he goes back on the cosmic treadmill, a creepy fucker comes out of nowhere and kicks him out randomly back into the timeline.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's like, oh, fuck, like, I need to figure something out here. And then he goes into, but he sees his house, and his mom is alive, and he's there, and he can't help himself.
Yeah.
He goes up and he says hello, and in this timeline, he's 18 years old. It takes him back to 2013. So they make jokes like, you look old. Like, are you tired? Like, what's wrong? And he's like, no, like, you know, and he's just loves, and like that moment when he hugs his mom, like, it was such a good moment.
Instead of him being kicked forward in time, he gets interrupted.
Yeah. And while he's eating dinner with his parents, he sees the younger version of himself outside, and he's like, oh shit. And he gets up and takes care of it and goes upstairs and tries to convince the kid, like, this is really bad. Like, we need to do something about this. Like, you know, and the kid, okay, Ezra Miller's a terrible human being. Their performance as the younger Barry was fucking great.
It felt very like, yeah. What was cool about it was just sort of this idea of this alternate, because he necessarily wasn't like that at 18.
Yeah.
Because his father was in jail all his life. He had to go through these events that give you this certain level of maturity and everything. And this one is an immature guy. His mom does his he was there at the house so his mom could do his laundry.
Yeah, yeah.
And just kind of this like stoner comedy vibe that happens between them was really funny.
And the whole dynamic of the two Barrys in the movie I loved, because a common criticism of Ezra's Barry in other DC movies was like, man, he's kind of a lot and it's kind of annoying. And that moment when Barry's talking to his younger self and he goes, you know, when you go on like that, it's really overwhelming, it's really annoying, and oh, wow, I'm starting to see it now. Like, that was really funny.
Yeah.
But, and this is where the movie, where I think it goes a step above, where I start to really get into it, is he realizes the day he gets kicked back to is the day he gets his powers. Because it starts to storm and he's like, oh my God, this is when I'm getting my powers. And the other Barry, younger Barry, was like, well, I have a date tonight. I'm not going to the crime lab. And he goes, no.
Because he wouldn't be at the crime lab.
Exactly. He goes, no, you're going to come with me. You're going to get your powers. So that way I can get my powers and come back to do this. Because if that happens, I'm just going to cease to exist. We can't have that happen. So he takes him to the crime lab, and they go in, he's setting everything up, and he lifts the window, and all the chemicals are there, and he goes, all right. And then in about 10 seconds, that's when the lightning hits you. And he's like, the lightning? I don't want to get struck by lightning. It's the whole thing. And what ends up happening, of course, is the lightning goes through current Barry and new Barry. And this is where the movie took a turn that I really applaud, because I didn't expect it. Our Barry loses his powers.
And it's not even a sequel.
No, but it was hilarious when he tries to do the run, and it's just nothing.
I appreciate that they made
so
a joke
funny
about how goofy his run is,
Yeah.
and that he ends up just a wide shot of him just running in a circle doing it.
Yeah, and the hilarity that ensues with the younger Barry when he has the powers now, and he's like going crazy, and he destroys the city. That was great. But then they need to figure out what's going on, and then there are subtle hints that the world is not the same than the one he remembers. Because they make a Back to the Future reference. And he's like, you know, it's kind of like Back to the Future. And young Barry goes, oh, Eric Stoltz, so good as Marty McFly. And Ezra Miller, or the other Barry, older Barry, is like, what are you talking about? And he goes, Eric Stoltz, he's great in Back to the Future. And he's like, that was Michael J. Fox. And he goes, no, it was Eric Stoltz. And if you know film history, it was Eric Stoltz till he was fired about halfway through filming. And so he's in this universe, it's Eric Stoltz. And he's like, that's weird. And then as they go in, you find out that Michael J. Fox was in Footloose and Kevin Bacon was in
Top Gun.
And he's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I destroyed everything. And then he's like, oh my God, I need to just call the other members of the Justice League and figure this out. So he calls, he finds Arthur Curry's dad and calls him, and Tamara Morrison is in the movie.
Boba.
And he goes, hi, can I speak to Arthur? And he looks and there's a dog, and he's like, you want to talk to my dog? And he's like, no, your son Arthur. He's like, I don't have any kids. And he's like, but isn't your wife the Queen of Atlantis? And he turns around and it's just like a middle-aged woman sitting on a couch, and he's like, nope. That was so great. And he looks up all these people. Wonder Woman doesn't exist.
It's like a Vegas magician.
Yeah. Victor Stone is still a football player.
Yeah, the accident never happened.
And so he's going through all this stuff, and he can't find any of his friends. And then they realize, and this is cool in the lore of the DCEU, the day after he got his powers was the day that Zod came to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love that idea. And I also love that he was there, like Bruce Wayne was, and he talks to younger Barry about how he just got his powers and he didn't know what to do, so he just tried to save one person, and he just saved a kid but couldn't save the kid's father.
Yeah.
It was a great scene. But then he's like, oh my God, if Superman doesn't stop Zod, the world ends today. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
If I don't go find Superman. And then he's like looking at all, he doesn't know, he can't find Superman anywhere because he's not born on the U.S. He's an alien. He's trying to figure it out, and he's like, there's no Aquaman, there's no Wonder Woman, there's no Batman. And then someone was basically just like, there's a Batman. He's like, there is? And he goes, yeah, I mean, we haven't seen him in a long time, but there's a Batman. And he's like, okay. And he gets younger Barry. He goes, come on, we got to go do this thing.
They say they have roommates, and there's the two Barrys, and they say they're cousins, and they're like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
But like all the roommates are like drunk and stoned, and they're just like, strong genes, man.
Yeah. and then they're like, all right, we're going to go. And they go to find Batman. But of course, what they discover is the Batman is now Michael Keaton, which, by the way, they fumbled his entrance. I gotta say,
I did not like it.
They fumbled Michael Keaton's entrance big time.
Yeah,
with the long hair and the silly fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I also don't like this. In the movie, there's going to be the one character that explains how the multiverse works.
Yes.
I hate that it was Michael Keaton. I hate it so much.
I don't mind that it was Michael Keaton. I hate that he just knew it.
Yeah,
that was what bothered me. Of just like, oh, this, and it's like, that's your first guess.
But what I will say, Michael Keaton, the actual way the multiverse works in this movie, I thought was fucking cool. Because it's unlike any multiverse I've seen in the other versions of it. It was
a very cheap cop-out to explaining why Michael Keaton is there.
Absolutely.
But they're not in the Burtonverse.
But it was cool.
But they stuck with it.
Yeah.
And it works.
And basically how they explain multiverse is when you travel...
With a dig at Marvel.
Yeah. When you travel back in time, you don't just change the future, you also change the past. And if you mess with time enough, and he's using strands of pasta to show it, he goes, when you mess with time enough, and then he drops cooked pasta into a thing, and he goes, it's a multiverse where they all intersect, and everything is jumbled up.
Some run parallel, some overlap.
And then some change over time. And I was like, okay, that was actually a cool way to describe it. So Michael Keaton's now in the mix. Now they're trying to find Superman, and Michael Keaton's Batman discovers, he's being kept in this Russian prison. Let's go get him. He agrees to go, and the two Barrys and Batman go. And of course, when they get there, it's not Superman, it's Supergirl. It's Kara Zor-El, who, by the way, Sasha Calle fucking crushed it. I thought she was the standout of the movie. To be honest, I loved her. They clearly cut stuff out with her, which upset me because she was great. I loved her.
She had to do the heavy lifting on the press tour.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
But they get Supergirl. There's a really cool action scene where she kills a bunch of dudes, which, by the way, people are suddenly cool with. I forget this, the early Man of Steel days when all people do was just bitch about all these people in the city are dying. Do you know how many people die in this movie?
Yeah.
And that's the last thing people are talking about.
Well, then they had the issue with Superman killing, and
that is such an
it was so motivated.
Don't get me started on
in the movie. It makes
perfect sense because they were clearly going in a direction where he was going to not do that anymore. He was Superman for a day. I'm not getting on the Man of Steel thing right now, but in this movie they fight, they get out, and then they realize that they need to stop Zod because the world's going to literally end that day if they don't.
Yeah.
And so older Barry is like, well, if that's going to happen, I need to get my powers back.
Yeah.
So they set up the chemicals, and they have the bat kite was fucking funny.
Yeah, they kept a lot of the goofiness of Michael Keaton, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Like, he has the ruler, and he's like, how much do you weigh?
Yeah, that was really funny.
They played it serious, but it was fun.
And they try to get him struck by lightning again. It doesn't work. And I would say the performance there was good. He was fucked up when the lightning hit him.
Yeah.
And then Supergirl comes in, and I love the shot. She comes in, she says, I got you, like Christopher Reeve, and then flies up and gets him struck in the air. he has his powers back. Now we got 2 Flashes, a Supergirl, and a Batman. They make the Justice League
Walk
joke.
into a bar.
Yeah, they make the Justice League joke, which was funny. Then they're all going to go fucking fight Zod. And so...
And this is where the movie gets off the rails. I think the first and second act are very solid. I think the third act kind of...
I agree that the third act is the weakest. I like it mostly.
I think the emotional through line carries. I think just everything that was happening is when it starts to lose you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically they go to fight Zod, and they are doing okay. The action scene with the 2 Flashes when they're like learning to fight with each other, that was pretty fucking awesome.
Barry realized he could channel the energy. He's like, can I emperor these people?
Yeah, that was so great. Yeah. And then all the Michael Keaton Batman action was awesome, even in Russia and in this was great. Supergirl.
It's cool to see him with CGI that can
and
make
people.
him do stuff. Yeah, exactly. Poor 70-year-old Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Supergirl fucking people up was great. Dude, I believed every line reading she had. Like with Zod, like when they realized, like Zod says that they killed baby Superman in this universe.
Yeah.
But like her discovering that and her going like, "What did you do?" Like I genuinely like the line reading of "What did you do?" in a serious tone can easily be construed as silly or not taken seriously. I so believed it.
But then they cut to Michael Shannon, who got his paycheck.
Yeah.
And was just like, the infant did not make it.
Yeah. But
and you're like, dude, calm down.
But anyway, the 2 Barrys quickly realize that they fucked themselves because both Michael Keaton and Supergirl die.
Okay, listen. Both times that we saw this movie, Michael Keaton's death scene is so funny.
The first one is.
The first one is because basically the plane is just not ejecting.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll take out this big ship with me.
Yeah.
And he just kamikazes into the ship, but it has a shield, so the Batwing just explodes and he's dead.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, it's a Flash movie, so there's probably going to be some time travel fuckery.
Yeah.
But just the fact that, like, that would be how Michael Keaton dies is so bad.
And then they realize, oh, shit, we gotta go back and fix it. So they try it again, and they go in, and Michael Keaton and Supergirl die again.
Yeah.
And then
again.
And then again. But basically, dude, the second Michael Keaton death was really fucking sad.
Was that when he fights the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he fights one of those
really
big Kryptonian guy.
Yeah.
And the action scene's really good, him crawling over the guy planting the bombs and shit. But
yeah, it was really sad. Like when Barry's holding him.
Yeah.
Like that was sad. But then basically younger Barry keeps trying to go back in time and keeps trying to fix it. And then you slowly realize that the creepy fucker that hit Barry out of the timeline when he was trying to travel was younger Barry because he needed him to create himself. And there's an older version of him. And he's like basically been his whole life as he's been trying to save Supergirl and Batman and just keeps failing.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this thing where they all come together and realize like, listen, we have fucked this up. The only way to save this world is to make sure it never exists, which means I have to go back and I have to make sure that Mom dies. Basically, like older our Barry is saying that, and young Barry is not having it. Yeah. The creepy fucker's not having it. And then as they're arguing and doing this, the cosmic treadmill collapses and a hole punches into it, and they look up and they realize you get to see all of the infinite Earths and all of the multiverses. And this is when the cameos happen.
Kind of looked like Injustice when you're on the loading screen. It's like, well, what Earth can I go to?
Yeah, and the comics, like the Crisis on Infinite Earth comics, where it had all the Earths lined up, it looked just like that. And so they're looking up and they see all these Earths. Now, this is when the cameos start happening.
And this is where the movie kind of gains you and loses you.
Listen, I loved them, but it was just like all right, we're going to pause the movie and look, guys. Okay, now back to
there's just a 2-minute scene of, you remember this? You remember this?
But, so, the cameos we get, I can't wait to get to the cameo that Kyler has no idea about. We see George Reeve, the original 1955 Superman. I know. He famously ended his own life because he couldn't get out of playing Superman, so that's a bit distasteful.
So here's CGI abomination
here's
of
a cameo of him. And then we get Jay Garrick, the original Flash, who was played by John Wesley Shipp, who played Flash in the 90s, but horrifically de-aged.
He's on he is a big part of the Flash TV show.
Yes, but a lot of people thought it was a different actor from CW. It wasn't. It was the original guy.
It was the original guy.
Yes.
Okay.
But deeply, deeply de-aged to the point where it was unrecognizable.
Is that the guy who said, like, I didn't do that?
Yeah.
But they just de-aged him?
No. The guy who said I didn't do it, it wasn't him.
Oh,
It was the older guy.
I see.
So you got those 2 cameos. And then it goes to another Earth. And this is the cameo that I enjoyed. It didn't look great in terms of the CG, but I will say I had a nice little, like, when I saw it.
Yeah.
And it's clearly Superman, but when he lands in the world, it's Christopher Reeve. It's the Superman from 1978.
Yeah.
And he stands there for a minute, and then, is it Helen Slater? Is that her name?
I didn't know that this character existed, so that's all you.
There was a horrifically bad 80s Supergirl movie that was meant to be canon to the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, but it did so bad they never crossed them over. But she comes in and lands next to him, and it's like, oh, we get to see him like together, like that's cool. And then they're looking out into the multiverse as well, and then it goes to a couple different Earths. You see Adam West Batman for a second, briefly, which was cool, and then you get to the cameo of the movie. Nick, this has been such a deep journey for us. I want you to reveal this cameo.
So you cut into this, and you're in some sort of cavernous area, and all of a sudden you are faced with a giant, massive spider that is throwing all these other spiders and webs, and you see him web a Superman up. All these spiders are crawling on its face. The laser beams shoot out of it. You see Superman just destroy this spider, and at the end, you get to see the glory that is Nicolas Cage in his Superman that never happened.
Yes, and it was fucking both times we watched the movie. People who knew, because there were some people who were like, "What the fuck?"
Which was the gamble of the cameo. This makes no sense to anyone that doesn't know that Nick Cage was supposed to be Superman in the 80s.
Dude, the people who knew
lost their mind.
Lost it. It was so awesome. That was the best cameo they did. And then am I forgetting any cameos? They did Adam West, George Reeve, John
No, that's
Jay
it.
Garrick. Yeah, and then they did
Which
all
is
those.
kind of insulting that they couldn't squeeze in like
Grant Gustin's Flash.
Grant Gustin's Flash, who was it for 9 seasons.
Yeah.
In the context in the context of that scene, and that's how the cameos work.
Yeah. You could have done it.
Yeah.
But they then cut back and they're like, holy fuck, we can't have these worlds collapsing. So Barry does,
which explained incursions better than Doctor Strange.
Yeah. But younger Barry hops in front of older Barry when the creepy fucker Dark Flash tries to stab him, thus killing himself, and they both die. Mm-hmm. And then Barry realizes, I need to just go back and affirm that my mother dies. So he goes back, and this is the best part of the movie. To me, it's the best scene in the movie. He dresses up and disguises himself and goes up to his mother because he has to take the can of tomatoes out of the cart
that he put in.
And she stops him and because he realizes like he's crying, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to And she goes, "No, like what's wrong? Are you okay?" And he's like, I came in town to visit my mom, and she's not doing well, and I'm really gonna miss her." And then she just goes, "Can I give you a hug?" and just hugs Barry. It's a great fucking scene. Mm-hmm. And then he slows down time and just looks at her and just says goodbye and like does the little I love you thing that they do, and then puts the tomatoes back. But not before doing one more thing. Because the reason why the evidence in the beginning of the film didn't exonerate his father was because his father was looking down at the can of tomatoes and you didn't see his father's face on the camera. Yeah. So he decides, let me just take the tomatoes and put them on the top shelf. Maybe that's enough, right?
Because that's all that's going to do is his mother's still dead, but it's going to exonerate his father.
Yes. So he does that. We don't see him do it. But then he goes back to his time. He thinks everything is fixed. He's like, I did it. Everything's fine. Thank God, right? Mm-hmm. And then he goes to court, and then we see his father look up because the tomatoes are on top. He gets exonerated. It's really emotional. It's really nice. And then they celebrate. He goes outside, and he's just like, Iris is there. His friends are there. And he's like, I did it. I exonerated my father. I can't believe this.
Everything seems normal.
Now, they shot a couple different endings to the movie, depending on the regime at Warner Brothers, but the one that they've chosen is by far the funniest one.
Yes.
It was by far the funniest ending, and I think this was the biggest reaction we got the whole screening. Mm-hmm. Barry steps out of the courthouse, and he gets a phone call that says Bruce Wayne. And he's like, oh my God, it's my Affleck. Like, thank God. And he answers it and goes, Bruce, you have no idea how great it is to hear your voice. I've been on such a journey. And then Bruce Wayne on the phone says, hey, I'm coming to you, actually. I'm about to get there. Wait 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a car pull up, a very fancy car. And you see someone start to get out. And you're like, it's Bruce Wayne. It's setting it up that it's going to be the Ben Affleck Bruce Wayne and that everything's back to normal. Only to reveal that it's fucking George Clooney from Batman and Robin. And Ezra Miller drops the one F-bomb and goes, who the fuck is this? And George Clooney walks up. He's like, hey, Barry. And then Ezra Miller says, you're not Batman. And then George Clooney goes, Barry, what's wrong with you? And then the movie ends. It was a great cameo.
So when we did our early screening,
we didn't see that.
We were told that it was an incomplete version.
Yeah.
What that means is we didn't see George Clooney, and everything else in the movie was exactly the same.
Yep.
Our film ended with Barry just going, "Who the fuck is this?"
Yeah, and we didn't see who it was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was. I liked it.
Pretty funny.
Yeah. And then the post-credit scene, of course, is Aquaman also exists in this new reality. Still played by Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to explain to him the journey he went on, but Jason Momoa was just so fucked up.
Drunk and crashes in a puddle and is like, I'm home. And then goes to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the movie. I like the movie. Mm-hmm. I personally do. Is it perfect? Absolutely not.
I'd rewatch it though. Like
I'd rewatch it. I'm gonna buy the 4K.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah. I mean, I say it's upper middle DCEU.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have my ranking.
The Suicide Squad's still the best.
It's up there.
My favorite.
It's probably top 3. Probably, yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed the film.
Good time. Not deserving of the praise it got, like early on. Yeah. Like all this hype.
Oh no, it's the best comic book movie ever.
Yeah,
Fuck,
and
no.
Not deserving of the hate it's getting online.
I also agree. It doesn't deserve either.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the movie. Hope you guys enjoyed the spoiler review. We enjoyed doing it. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next review.